So you want to own a Renaissance bank. Marble counting halls, ledgers stacked with gold florins, kings sending envoys to your door, hat in hand, asking for a loan. That is the picture. Here is the number that ruins it. In 1345, two of the largest banks in Florence collapsed within months of each other, wiped out by a single client who refused to pay them back. That client was the King of England. We are going behind the counter of a Renaissance banking house, and we are going to follow the florins from the vault to the palace and back, because the real business was never quite what the marble suggested. Start with what you are actually buying. A Renaissance bank is not a building with a vault. It is a network. The Medici Bank, the most famous example, operated branches in Florence, Rome, Venice, Bruges, London, and beyond, each run by a partner or a trusted factor, each keeping its own books, all reporting back to the parent house. You are not opening a shop. You are building a web of trusted men in cities you may never visit, each one holding your reputation in his hands. The first cost is capital, and it is enormous. A serious banking house needed reserves large enough to survive months without repayment, because most of your money will not be sitting in your vault. It will be out, loaned to wool merchants waiting on a shipment, advanced to a cardinal awaiting his revenues, extended to a king who insists the crown jewels are excellent collateral. Convert the working capital of a major house into laborers' wages, and you are talking about many decades of ordinary income concentrated in a handful of family hands. Then comes staffing, and this is where the real skill lives. You need literate men who can keep double-entry books, correspond in code across 4 languages, and resist stealing from you in a city where you cannot watch them. You pay them a share of the profits rather than a flat wage, because a salaried man has no reason to protect your money as if it were his own. Partnership, not employment, is what keeps a distant branch honest. Now the revenue, and here the business becomes clever rather than simple. Usury, charging interest on a loan, is forbidden by the church, so you do not charge interest. You charge an exchange rate. A bill of exchange lets a merchant in Florence pay a supplier in Bruges without a single coin crossing the Alps. Your bank issues the bill, your branch in Bruges honors it, and the exchange rate quietly includes your margin. Currency conversion becomes interest-wearing, a disguise the church cannot object to, because on paper, nothing was lent at all. Sovereign lending is the largest and most dangerous revenue line. A king needs coin for a war today and promises to repay from taxes he has not yet collected. He offers you trade privileges, tax farming rights, or control over a valuable export like wool or alum as security. When it works, the returns are extraordinary, because kings pay well for money they need urgently. When it does not work, there is no court in Europe that will force a monarch to honor his debt to a merchant family. That is exactly what happened to Florence's Bardi and Peruzzi banks. Both had lent heavily to Edward III of England to fund his war against France. In 1345, he stopped paying. Both houses collapsed. A chronicler of the time put it plainly: the king's default alone was enough to bring down businesses that had survived a century of ordinary trade risk. One client, one refusal, total ruin. So who actually got rich in this business, across generations rather than one lucky decade? Not the house with the single largest royal loan. The Medici learned from the Bardi and Peruzzi failure. They diversified. No branch, no client, no single kingdom was allowed to represent too much of the whole. They spread risk across wool, silk, alum mining, and smaller loans to many merchants rather than one enormous loan to one crown. They also collected something more valuable than gold: information. A network of branches meant early word of harvests, wars, and defaults before rivals heard it. That intelligence let them exit bad positions before the collapse arrived. Run the good year, and a diversified banking house could turn a fortune large enough to buy political power outright, which the Medici eventually did, becoming rulers of Florence itself. Run the bad year, the one king, one war, one branch overexposed, and the entire structure could disappear within a season, the way it did for two of Florence's greatest houses in 1345. Could you get rich owning a Renaissance bank? Yes, if you understood that your real product was trust and diversified risk, not gold in a vault. Lend to one king, and you are gambling the whole business on one man's word. Build a network, spread the exposure, and collect the information flowing through it, and banking stops being a wager and starts being an empire. The florins were never the business. The network moving them was